Welcome to the Bo Benson Show. If you like conspiracy theories, you like what's going on in the government, you like to learn about secret societies, you like to learn about Jehovah's Witnesses, this is the perfect channel for you. Please subscribe and make a comment. Welcome to the Bo Benson Show. This is video number 5 about Abel Perez's case. We're going to be looking at cult evidence and Watchtower's secret letter. What this means is we're going to show you evidence that Watchtower has a letter that is actually instructing people. It's a secret letter that was not given to anyone, that has gotten to the court system, that is telling them to hide CSA from the police and other things. It's a step-by-step process of how they hide pedophiles within the organization of Jehovah's Witnesses, and also we'll be showing you evidence that the organization itself falls in the criteria as cults seen by the U.S. government.
August 2nd, Assessing the Jehovah's Witnesses Using the BITE Model. August 2nd, 2018 by Stephen Hassan, Ph.D. Green means does not apply. Orange means it partially applies. Red means it absolutely applies. Behavior control. Regulate an individual's physical reality. Dictate where, how, and with whom the member lives and associates or isolates. Dictate when, how, and with whom the member has sex. Control types of clothing and hairstyles. Regulate diet, food and drink, hunger and or fasting. Manipulation and deprivation of sleep. Financial exploitation, manipulation, or dependence. Restrict leisure, entertainment, vacation time. Major time spent with group indoctrination and rituals and or self-indoctrination, including the internet. Permission required for major decisions. Thoughts, feelings, and activities reported to superiors. Rewards and punishments used to modify behaviors, both positive and negative. Discourage individualism, encourage groupthink. Impose rigid rules and regulations. Encourage and engage in corporal punishment. Punish disobedience by beating, torture, burning, cutting, rape, or tattooing. Branding. Threaten harm to family or friends. Force individual to rape or be raped. Instill dependency and obedience. Information control. Deception. Deliberately withhold information. Distort information to make it more acceptable. Systematically lie to the cult member. Minimize or discourage access to non-cult sources of information, including internet, TV, radio, books, articles, newspapers, magazines, other media.
Ensure that individual behavior. Keep members busy so they don't have time to think and investigate. Control through a cell phone with texting, calls, and internet tracking. Compartmentalize information into outsider versus insider doctrines. Ensure that information is not easily accessible. Control information at different levels and missions within the group. Allow only leadership to decide who needs to know what and when. Encourage spying on other members. Impose a buddy system to monitor and control member. Report deviant thoughts, feelings, and actions to leadership. Ensure that individual behavior is monitored by the group. Extensive use of cult-generated information and propaganda, including newsletters, magazines, journals, audio tapes, videotapes, YouTube, movies, and other media. Misquoting statements or using them out of context from non-cult sources. Unethical use of confession. Information about sins used to disrupt and or dissolve identity boundaries. Withholding forgiveness or absolution. Manipulation of memory, possibly false memories. Thought control. Require members to internalize the group's doctrine as truth. Adopting the group's map of reality as reality. Instill black and white thinking. Decide between good versus evil. Organize people into us versus them. Change a person's name and identity. Use of loaded language and cliches which constrict knowledge, stop critical thoughts and reduce complexities into platitudinous buzzwords. Encourage only good and proper thoughts. Hypnotic techniques are used to alter mental states, undermine critical thinking, and even to age regress the member. Memories are manipulated and false memories are created, teaching thought-stopping techniques which shut down reality testing by stopping negative thoughts and allowing only positive thoughts, including denial, rationalization, justification, wishful thinking, chanting, meditating, praying, speaking in tongues, singing or humming, rejection of rational analysis, emotional control. Manipulate and narrow the range of feelings. Some emotions and/or needs are deemed as evil, wrong, or selfish. Teach emotion-stopping techniques to block feelings of hopelessness, anger, or doubt. Make the person feel that problems are always their own fault, never the leader's or the group's fault. Promote feelings of guilt or unworthiness, such as identity guilt. You are not living up to your potential, your family is deficient, your past is suspect. Your affiliations are unwise. Your thoughts, feelings, actions are irrelevant or selfish. Social guilt, historical guilt. Instill fear, such as fear of thinking independently, the outside world, enemies, losing one's salvation, leaving or being. Extremes of emotional highs and lows, love bombing and praise one moment, and then declaring you are a horrible sinner, ritualistic and sometimes public confession of sins. Phobia, indoctrination, inculcating irrational fears about leaving the group or questioning the leader's authority. No happiness or fulfillment possible outside the group, terrible consequences if you leave, hell, demon possession, incurable diseases, accidents, suicide, insanity, 10,000 reincarnations, etc. Shunning of those who leave. Fear of being rejected by friends and family. Never legitimate reason to leave. Those who leave are weak, undisciplined, unspiritual, worldly, brainwashed by family or counselor, or seduced by money, sex, or rock and roll threats of harm to ex-member and family. Exhibit 13.
All right, so now that you've got to see all that, you're just going to see some images of the different exhibits. So I'm going to talk about each of these exhibits here in just a moment, but I just want the audience to see that, yes, these are the exhibits. These are in the actual document itself. So when I go to use the pictures and then talk about them, what we just saw, you'll see that we're using these exact same photos. And that's the only reason you're seeing this right now. You're actually seeing me taking clip hits as the system was running. So I want you to understand, I'm going to be explaining what these images are, what they're portraying, what it is to the organization, and how it's related to the cult mentality and behavior. And then and the reason for this, and I want the audience to be aware of this, is I'm doing this in case someone watches these videos and are representing an abuse victim that is part of the cult group of Jehovah's Witnesses. I want them to understand what this is. So with that being said, let's get started. So this is a depiction of the society. The organization known as Watchtower, tells all the Jehovah Witnesses that they're going to be attacked and arrested for being Jehovah Witnesses. And it's a part of their persecution for when the end of the world is coming. So they believe that the entire world will form a new world order. That's where their Zionistic belief systems come in, and they're preaching to people. They believe that this new world order is going to outlaw all religion, and they're teaching them that they're going to have the police are going to come to arrest them. And so they're at a home having a Bible study, which is something that they don't really do anymore, but it's something that they used to do. But now they will only do this for the end of the world. The time is coming and society has come against Jehovah's Witnesses. And so this framework is to teach young people not to trust the police. Jehovah's Witnesses teach their members that they are the absolute authority. The elders have complete control over everything. crimes, murder, sex abuse, every crime has to be brought up to them and not the authorities. You will actually be removed from the church or punished by the church or beaten by your own parents if you go to the police about a crime. It is forbidden for you to actually do this. They will, in their public statements and documents, they say that it's up to the person to decide if they want to do this. And they have modified their elders' handbook, which is the cult book that the leaders used for punishment. And because it's been used in court, they now say that it's up to the person, and they're not allowed to say that they can or cannot. It's up to their discretion. Even though they say that, they don't implement that in reality. They put in a policy of shunning and abuse if you talk. I was told you never talk to the police growing up. I'm in the generation where we were told that the police were the enemies and they're part of what they call the world. And they say the world is owned by Satan. And the world is terminology discussing all religions and all Christian religions, especially, which they refer to as Christendom. And in the Jehovah's Witness language, that is a negative term. So this is another image of the exact same thing. The reason they're holding their Bibles and their Awake magazines there is the police are coming to raid the home, and they're going to go hide the literature so they can protect the society's literature. Because Jehovah's Witnesses are taught the same thing I just spoke about, that this end of the world time is coming and their religion will be outlawed and that they need to do this. They don't really care about the Bible itself. It's not really relevant to Jehovah's Witnesses. They believe that this, they call spiritual food, is coming from the Awake magazines and the literature from Jehovah's Witnesses and the broadcast. And that takes precedence over the Bible. It takes precedence over the law. Whatever the magazines and stuff are telling them, that's officially what they're supposed to do. The only thing that overrides that is if an elder tells you something that's contradictory. The elders have absolute control because they are picked by the society, which is picked by the governing body, which is the leaders of the organization. And so what they say is coming directly from God's mouth and is called new light. So they teach the members that this end time could be any moment, any day, could be tomorrow, could be a year from now. They don't know for sure, but they just know it's coming really soon. They have been saying this exact thing for the last 200 years. Their belief system is that the supernatural creatures are going to come down from heaven who are going to be controlled by the leaders of the organization known as Jehovah's Witnesses, referred to as the governing body. These people who are down here, who are looking to arrest the Jehovah's Witnesses, the police officers, the governing body is going to order, because they believe they will have control over this magical army. This magical army of supernatural creatures is going to come down, and the governing body is going to kill the police, the military, and wipe out the civilian population that is not Jehovah's Witness. So they believe in the mass genocide is going to take place at the end times, and that they're going to be generals over this magical army that's going to murder the police. It's also important to note that if you are not in good standing with the leaders of the church during this time, the church leaders are going to order these supernatural creatures to kill you. And these supernatural creatures are going to kill women, children, babies, infants. Anything that isn't part of the organization of Jehovah's Witnesses will be murdered in this massacre. So in this image, you can see that they believe that the supernatural creatures are going to protect only the members of Jehovah's Witnesses, and that they're going to destroy everyone else. And the military aspects of modern day culture will have no effect, and that these angels that they're calling down, or the supernatural creatures controlled by the society, are going to murder all the military people as well. So this is a common theme within the organization, where they're constantly showing police and military trying to fight and save civilians against these psychotic killing machines known as angels. This is just part of their brainwashing technique. Remember, they believe that this is going to happen any moment, any time. So Every witness is taught this from childhood all the way up. So they live in a constant state of fear that this war of the end of the world is going to happen at any moment. And this is why so many people who leave the church panic and have issues. It's because they feel like, oh, if I don't believe and I leave, what if I'm wrong? And then this end of the world battle happens tomorrow, and then I just lose my everlasting life. So they're given a special reward for being a Jehovah's Witness, where they'll be reincarnated with a new body on planet Earth after this great tribulation happens, where everyone is murdered. So as you can see, during the Great Tribulation, Christians will rely on Jehovah and not try to defend themselves. So the reason why this organization is saying that you don't defend yourselves, you don't do anything, is that they're creating what they refer to as the slave class. So Jehovah's Witnesses are proud to call themselves slaves to the organization, and they're slaves to the governing body. So this is a Zionist belief system that is very old, and that they want to create a slave race, and Jehovah's Witnesses are the slave race that the Zionist movement is looking for. So that's why they call themselves slaves. This is why that they want to be slaves. This is why they don't think of the slave term as what we think of as slave, like being brought over. We're thinking about slaves that are working for a great entity and are proud to be doing it. That's what the slave terminology means to the organization. I know it doesn't make a lot of sense to normal people. It doesn't make sense to a lot of Christians. And the reason they call themselves, now just so you understand, when they say that they are Christians, they believe that they're the only true Christians. All other religions, Catholics, born-agains, they're all wrong, and they're all evil, and they're all going to die. I just think everyone should know that. They believe that all other religions are wrong, and that you can only be part of the Jehovah's Witnesses and be saved. So once again, the creatures that witnesses are going to use to massacre the police and the military are creatures that are Elohim. So they believe that Elohim, the creatures from the Bible, are actually going to be under their control, and that the governing body has control of them. And the governing body is going to systematically pick and choose who gets murdered and who survives this massive genocide of the planet. So this is a doomsday cult, just so you guys understand. I know that if you talk to a member, they'll say that they are not. They are absolutely 100% doomsday cults. If you ever go around a gathering of Jehovah's Witnesses where there's only Jehovah's Witnesses there, they literally sit there and only talk about the end times. It's a very bizarre thing that every witness family can attest to. All former members will tell you about this. They will not always do this around other Christians. If you have a family get together and they're around normal people, they will control themselves. But if you leave them with only their own kind, they will obsess over the murdering of other people, and they actually cannot wait. And they believe that this life is useless and is worthless, and that they're going to be awarded this new life and this paradise on earth, is what they call it. So they believe that they're going to be given this artificial body. So it's like a form of reincarnation onto this planet after the massacre, and that they're going to rebuild the earth the way that the Elohim that it worships wants. And they refer to that Elohim creature as Jehovah, and they claim that Jehovah is the entity of what Christians know as the Bible. It's real important that you know, if you do look at the Bible that the Jehovah's Witnesses have, it's called the New World Translation. It's associated with the New World Order. The Jehovah's Witnesses go all the way back to the Zionist movements. That's where all this originates. This is where this cult mentality comes from. They're financed by families that are Zionists, like the Rockefellers, as well as some other important individuals. So the family that founded the Organization of Jehovah's Witnesses is the Russells. They are also the same family that formed the Skull and Bones, if you are not familiar with that organization. Baron Philip from the Rothschilds is the individuals that were financing the organization during this time period when it was first introduced. So understand that the Skull and Bones Society, as well as the Rothschild organizations and groups and companies, are associated with the Zionist movement of Jehovah's Witnesses. So there are some cult belief systems they have. If you're familiar with Albert Pike's letter of the 1871, there is a conspiracy theory about them writing a 150-year-old plan to take over the world. The Jehovah's Witnesses organization and its Zionistic groups and its founders are people who believe in this belief system. I'm not telling you this to say it's real or not. I'm only telling you this is why the organization behaves the way it does. This is some of its cult belief systems. This is why they are associated with the Masons. And I want the audience to be aware. And if you're dealing with the organization, you can understand some of their political connections and why they seem to have more political connections than you would normally see with the church organization. These are the reasons, is because of their affiliation with some of these groups. I apologize. I was going to put part 2 is Watchtower's secret letter. I realized the letter itself is over 19 minutes long, so that'll have to be a video by itself. And that is exhibit number 20.
To all bodies of elders in the United States. Confidential. Dear brothers, we are writing to help all of you as in
The Watchtower's secret letter will be part 5, part 2. So we're going to take the end part of this video and we're going to look at the behavioral control sections and then the evidence that was given that's associated with Jehovah's Witnesses using the BITE model. So let's take a look at this. So with the behavioral controls, everything that you do in the organization is controlled, going from what you can watch, what you can read, who you can talk to, who you can sleep with, how you can sleep with them, what you can eat, what you cannot eat. There's not a single part of your life that the organization doesn't tell you what you have to do. There is a rule for every single situation inside this cult. It is a high control group. It falls in every single one of these categories under behavioral control. Every single one. So we'll take a little bit and we'll talk about some of the information control because, like, once again, the organization fits every single one of these categories. You can't research. You're forbidden to research the history of the organization. If you get caught doing that, you will be canceled, you will be kicked out, you will be removed, you will be disfellowshipped. You are not allowed to watch any videos that are against the organization. It's considered bad association. You're not even allowed to watch other Christians talk about the Bible. You're forbidden to go to another church. You're forbidden to listen to a lecture. You're actually forbidden to research the Bible. So this Christian organization that says the Bible is the most important thing will tell you that you're not allowed to learn what the Bible is from an academic standpoint. You are forbidden to do that. So compromise information to outside versus inside doctrines. Jehovah's Witnesses have all their own literature. Everyone else is wrong. Falls into that category. Encourage spying other members. Absolutely. The amount of damage they do by following you, stalking you, elders following you. People have part-time jobs just so they can go around and follow other members in the organization. They filmed you. They did this exact same scenario to me. They actually had photos of me with my girlfriend holding hands and threw them down in front of me during one of these judicial meetings. So they'll actually stalk you, take photos of you. This is commonplace. They will stand outside your house, shine their lights into your house. They will pull in and out of your driveway. I've actually had victims of the organization. The elders go to intimidate them by pulling into their driveway, sitting there, shining their lights in them, letting them know that they're there and watching them. I've actually had recordings of them doing this. This is totally common tactics with the organization. And then obviously extensive use of cult propaganda. Absolutely. You're only allowed to look at their stuff. You're only allowed to watch their stuff. So that definitely falls in line with that. Unethical use of confessions. Well, this obviously goes with the CSA thing. They'll have people confess to crimes and then hide them and then use those crimes against them to hold them into the organization. Like, no one else would ever want you, and that, you're so, wicked, and that without the organization, you would just be a complete degenerate. We're the only ones that can help you, that kind of thing. That's just normal talk with the organization. That's why they have such an obsession with taking people who have attractions to children and putting them into positions of power and then claiming that they're able to rehabilitate them when they don't, and they never do. And that's one of the reasons why they go so far as to hide the CSA issue that the organization has, is because they claim that they have this ability to basically cleanse people and make them a good person in the eyes of society. In reality, these people are always doing the same things they're doing. The organization spends hundreds of millions of dollars worth of covering up every, I was about to say every year, but that's not accurate. So we know the organization right here and now has paid around $300 million in lawsuits. Now, I don't know what the exact number is, but we know it's around $300 million right now. And we know it's more than that, but that's just what we're aware of, that we have records of, that we can see and that we can show. Now, those other cases that take place that we don't hear about, that are signed off, non-disclosures, we don't add that to that, but we know that the number is astronomically high. Now, as far as emotional control, they fit every single one of these categories. They're famous for their disfellowshipping, destroying families. Jehovah's Witnesses are very well known for getting into families, convincing their cult members to love bomb you. And once they've love bombed you and you feel like this is the greatest thing on earth, then you abandon your true family, your true friends. You become associated with the organization, and you have no association with the outside world. And then you're the greatest thing on earth until you don't do something that the church asks you to do. And when I say church, I'm talking about the organization, Watchtower. So something Watchtower asks you to do, as long as you do everything that Watchtower does without complaining, without letting anyone know, and you just keep a fake smile on your face and say that this is great, you'll be love bombed by the other members. As soon as you think for yourself or use critical thinking, which is really interesting because critical thinking is actually, there's videos by the organization saying that critical thinking is your enemy and is wrong and is punishable by being disfellowshipped. So thinking for yourself is completely forbidden in the organization. As a child, you're taught that Jehovah is the God that you worship. Everything you want has to be done. This manipulation control mechanism will start from infanthood all the way up till the point you die. And they even believe after you die, you then are still a slave to Jehovah in the organization. So from a kid, you're taught that everybody around you is evil, everyone is wrong, and anytime anyone has any criticism at all, no matter what it is of the organization, it's because Satan's making them do it, they're evil, and that you should never, ever talk to them again. So, for an example, a true 100% following the rules Jehovah's Witness, if they have a child, would say the child is a 6-year-old female. She's going door to door, and one of the elders, who is a known child molester, asks to be around the child, and he's alone with the child, and then he molests the child. The organization tells the mother, don't report this. Don't tell anyone about this. If she reports it or tells anyone about that, she will be punished, not the child molester. This is so common in the organization that the Jehovah's Witnesses have been referred to as a pedophile paradise by some lawyers. Now, that term is very, very, very engaging within the community of ex-members of the organization, because they're perfectly aware of the absolutely disgusting behavior seen within the organization and covering up of CSA. It goes almost as far as that they go out of their way to actually acquire people who are child molesters and putting them in positions of power. Now, there's a lot of speculation about why they do this. Honestly, we don't really truly know. It's just a pattern that is recognized with the organization. Their true intentions with doing this are to this day unknown. Like we discussed before, you're taught that Armageddon is going to happen at any moment. And if you are not a practicing Jehovah Witness in good standing, you will be murdered by the magical entities that Watchtower believes that they can control. Watchtower believes that they have magical entities that watch over them and allow their organization to get away with crimes and not be responsible for their actions. And if they do win something or something is in their favor, it's always because of some kind of spiritual entity is behind them, giving them the power that they want. So if a Jehovah Witness goes into court and he is charged with CSA, even though he did it, admits to it, and they're somehow able to get him out on a technicality, they will claim that that technicality was brought to them by the will of Jehovah, which is the magical entity that they worship. So this kind of ideology is used with everything they do. Every single meal that they eat, they pray to this entity. Everything that they do get, they claim is because of this entity. Any punishment is because they defied the entity. This emotional control mechanism they use is how the organization has got away with murder. I don't know if I will be sharing this or not, but there is a murder case which we are involved in where the organization had a mother who sacrificed her child with a ritual to some of the Bethelites. And that woman, I apologize, my audio cut off there. So what I'm trying to tell you guys, we do have a court case where we have a woman who sacrificed her infant during a ritual with other members of the organization, and a cover-up was put in place in order to cover up what they had done. This was how we were described is it was similar to a satanic ritual, which was done within the organization where they were sacrificing a child to one of these entities that the organization worships. Luckily, this person has been found guilty. She got the death penalty, if I believe correctly, for this incident. I will share that information once the legal team allows that. But at this point, I'm just telling you guys about the incident so you can have a little understanding that these kind of crimes do take place within the organization itself, and this emotional manipulation will go as far as to hide CSA. Obviously, parents allowing their children to be abused. We have cases of murder. Now, I will disclose that the cases of murder are not where as prevalent as obviously the CSA issue. This is just one extreme example I want to give you. Like I said, the other part 2 of this is going to be 20 minutes minimally as far as the length goes of the actual audio reading. And then I will break that down. I will do commentary with that one, and hopefully you'll stay tuned for that video, which will be coming probably in the next week or two.